Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are discussing the best AI tools for digital marketing.
That was even more enthusiastic than normal. I mean, it's quite scary. Yeah. So anyway, we are going to talk AI tools. The reason for this is that there's a lot of talk about generative AI, ChatGPT and Gemini and all that kind of stuff. But increasingly what we're seeing is a lot of this AI functionality baked into other tools.
So the thing is, though, everyone's so sick of hearing about AI. Maybe we should just drop it.
Yeah.
Because it's like lots of things, isn't it? I mean, these are just digital marketing tools. So if you find the AI element offensive,
just
this
pretend.
episode is just best tools for digital marketing.
Just pretend, yeah, exactly. Yeah. The thing is as well that it just is increasing the pace at which we're getting these tools to some extent as well. And I thought it was worth doing a bit of a sum up of the ones that we've come across, but the ones that we're using that we found to be actually practical to.
It's the same with like any digital marketing tools. There's so many out there. You have no idea which ones to actually keep track of and which ones to use.
Yeah, and the particular problem with this area at the moment is that a tool will come out and you think, oh, that's quite clever. And then one of the generative AI platforms will be updated and then it does it anyway. You don't even need the tool to kind of do it.
I love the whole AI Friends has even made it into like the conference world. As
completely.
A brilliant play on words. There's a conference coming up called the Renaissance. Oh, so clever.
I see the Renaissance. Okay.
Renaissance.
It took me a while.
Yeah.
The thing is, every conference I've been to, they want me to talk about AI. So, anyway, we're talking about it too much. Let's
talk about real intelligence.
There's not much of that going on, so let's just move on. Right. 11 Labs. I am a bit shocked by this one, how good it's got. So we used to use, and we still do, use Descript for editing podcasts and video. And really fantastic tool, which we'll come on to a little bit later on. But 11 Labs is a voice synthesizing platform. So it's got lots and lots of AI-generated voices. You can design your own voices. So you can give it regional accents, all those different sorts of interesting things. It's got some amazing stuff. And then you just give it copy, and it will read it out to you in that voice, and you can download the file. It does a lot more beyond that as well. It will translate things into different languages. You can now give it video, and it will look at the video and it will generate audio that is appropriate for that video. Not voices, but like kind of background sound. So a lot of the AI video stuff you've been seeing generated when it's got sound over it, they've done that with 11 Labs. But the key bit of functionality here is that you give it a load of your voice and it learns your voice, but it is uncannily good. So we were playing around with it. And then what we decided, we started doing every 2 weeks with our news updates now. And Lou's just looked at me and made me realise that I need to do one this afternoon. But anyway, that's another story. So what we did, though, is realise that a lot of people that are wanting to go through and get an update on the news, listening to it would be quite an easy thing to do, like the podcast in the background. So we just write the article now, put it into 11 Labs in Virtual Daniel, and have a little audio player at the top of the page in my voice. You listen to it. If you get the wording, you need to put the right commas in the right places. You need to add a few extra full stops to slow it down in some places to give it the right kind of cadence. But it is absolutely brilliant. And I put it on to a LinkedIn post and then said to people, do you like the new news format? And what do you think of AI Daniel? And everyone, all they commented on was they really liked the format and it was great having the news. And I said, it's weird. No one said it's an AI voice. And they were like, what? It's an AI? Oh, I missed that bit. Is it really? Are you sure? Yeah. And then what happened is that we had this voiceover artist that we've been using from an agency, this lady called Nicola, absolutely beautifully spoken voice, incredibly clear. And everyone was saying, oh, I saw you've been using AI there. And it's like, that's not an AI voice, that's a real person. But she's so good and so clear and so cadenced and well-spoken that people had assumed she was an AI as well. So that's a bit of a tricky one because you're like, well, maybe we need someone that's a bit less perfect so it doesn't sound like an AI. And then it's like, oh, so we can't use the real person because she sounds like an AI. And it's like, we're going in a bit of a circle now.
How rude.
Yeah, right.
How rude.
Exactly.
I can listen to it and study it and pinpoint where maybe it's not quite got your voice right.
100%.
Yeah.
But to anyone who just listens to the podcast and listens to that, they would not know.
Yeah, and you have to listen to my
They might
voice
just
an awful
think-
lot, so he's pretty used to it.
I might just think you're having an off day.
Well, but the thing is, what's really interesting is when I trained it, I was training it on my mic in the office. And we didn't have the team here like we do now. And I positioned the mic a little bit too close and I didn't have a pop guard. So there's a little bit of popping on them. And it's trained the AI with that.
Yeah.
So it sounds incredibly authentic because it's quite imperfect.
That's good.
So, and it is, you do listen back and it will do the pauses. So, welcome back to the digital marketing news update. And it's like, oh, that's cool. But only if you're listening for it. And when I talk, if I listen to a recording of myself sometimes, someone will be in the room and they said, you didn't say that right? You've done this to me before. And you, yes, I did. They said, no, you said something that was complete nonsense. I was like, I did not. And I listened back and go, wow, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
So when we're speaking, we do make mistakes, but your brain will adapt for my mistake.
Yeah.
So this is pretty incredible. Now, the question is, for this format, I think it's great. And I state it's an AI version of my voice. There's complete clarity on that. What about, and I always give the example in training sessions, you have some sort of social media disaster. Your CEO is on a flight somewhere a very long way away and you can't get them to make a statement for a long time. Is it okay to get them to read the statement in the virtual person and put that out? No, I would suggest no. Okay. But it then gets a little bit difficult because if I've got 10 minutes of your voice, I can deep fake you now with one of these tools. And I'm not supposed to. It's a break of the terms and conditions.
It goes beyond that. I mean, I took a short video clip of one of my clients and just played around with it, and I got it to regenerate it in Italian.
Oh, I remember you talked
And
about
he
this before,
doesn't speak Italian, to my knowledge. I played it back to him, and he was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Because it lip synced into
exactly.
the Italian. Like it did a really, really good job, and it was his voice. And that I think that was the first time that I realised, gosh, no, these things are incredibly powerful, but incredibly dangerous. Because actually, if it can deep fake Italian in your voice, and it literally, that was a 40-second clip. I think it was very, very short.
So, I mean, just on this, I was with someone called Professor Chris Tucci at an Imperial College program last week, and he was talking about AI. And he's incredibly smart guy. He's doing a lot of the cutting edge research and this stuff. He's currently, if you've seen the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia, they're basically building an autonomous region within Saudi Arabia with this 70-mile long building. Also, so just some mind-bending projects. He's so clever. And he was talking about what are the risks of AI. And he said at the moment, because we haven't got a general artificial intelligence, there aren't the kind of doomsday risks that everyone's talking about. But the biggest problem is going to be this deepfake stuff because of fraud, because of people doing all sorts of manipulative things. So anyway, use it wisely, I think is my thing. But 11 Labs, absolutely brilliant tool. They're doing really well as an organisation as well, and good to them. It's not an expensive tool. I think we paid like $11 a month, and I think it then goes up to about $20, $22 a month. So really, really worth looking at. Let's move on through the tools. iQuant, right. I was speaking to Charlie, the CEO of iQuant, again, day before yesterday. And we'll put out a bit of a podcast interview. So remind us what...
He's such a lovely
Yeah,
guy.
he's a good guy, right?
I'd encourage anybody who gets a chance to speak to Charlie, speak to him.
He's a
really
really nice
fun,
guy.
really intelligent.
Remind us what iQuant does, Kieran.
So it enables you to simulate user experiences of your content and gives you back an eye tracker study of it. And it's remarkably accurate. Like, I mean, I've spoken to Charlie about it. He said, look, it's not 100% accurate. You never have that. But you'll probably get, like 80, 85%.
No, it's 90%. I spoke to him. 90% accurate now.
I mean, they've been keep on working on it. It's phenomenal.
So
really
what it
phenomenal.
tells you is where you show it some content and it works out where user attention is going to go, essentially. So it's kind of like doing an eye tracker study. But the thing is, you can do it before you launch something, and you can work out is something like if you put a special offer on the page, you might think it's a good thing, but actually maybe it's going to distract people from the main thing that you're trying to do.
It's true. Like you don't like a video of your CEO picking his nose that will get a lot of attention, but for all the wrong reasons, right?
I'm not sure how that's connected, but thank you for bringing that to us as well. No, I completely get what you're saying. And the reality of it is that we do an awful lot of the hippo thing, highest paid people's opinions. I think it should be like this. We end up doing that. It's probably, maybe right, but it might not be. So I think that for a lot of people that are putting out a lot of creative, it makes a lot of sense. What's really good now, though, so before you had to apply for an account to get access, there's now just a free trial. You don't even need a credit card. So you can go to the platform, sign up, and I think it gives you 5 free tests, and you can run your stuff through it, and you can kind of see. So really worth taking a look at as well.
And we've spoken before about the importance of user testing. And I can't remember the exact stat, but it was like 5 people can uncover 85%
That was it. That's exactly
of
the
your
stat.
website's issues. And it doesn't have to be time consuming, but it can be. So doing something like this on a regular basis.
Yeah, really good starting point, especially if you're an organisation that's putting a lot of creative out, if you're an agency doing this stuff, really brings something extra to the table as well. So take a look. Right, you've been messaging me repeatedly about this AI image creation tool you've been playing around with. And what I thought was interesting is that in most cases, the free ones aren't very good that have been out there because they're based on old versions of DALL-E and things like that. So hands and faces have been terrible. And then you've got Midjourney, which is amazing, but it's paid for now. You've got the latest version of DALL-E, which is great, but it's on the paid for accounts. And then you've got Google Gemini, which at the moment, the image generation is not available in the EU or in the UK. Which is really frustrating because it's available in the US and a few other places as well. So tell us about your tool.
So, Daniel, I found it because of you.
Okay.
Recently I attended Daniel's morning webinar on...
the ChatGPT Masterclass.
Yeah, the ChatGPT Masterclass. Because I knew that Daniel knew a lot more about this than I did. And I didn't think
I will not hear that often.
Did it blow your mind?
I didn't. It blew my mind, yeah. I'm like, whoa. I really had underestimated how much more you know about
it. You know why this is? Because you were, like any hype stuff, you were a bit resistant to the hype stuff.
Yeah, I was very resistant.
And I'd gone down the route of just trying to understand it from a code point of view. And that had led me to maybe deep into it a little bit more technically from that point of view. But by the way, we've got another one of those ChatGPT masterclasses coming up, right?
Yes, 1st of May.
So 1st of May. So they're half-day sessions. So if you go onto targetinternet.com/masterclass.
Yeah, but we'll put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes as well. So you can targetinternet.com/podcast. You can find we do loads of them at the moment as well. So tell us about the tool.
So I went looking for Midjourney and I came out with this somehow.
Okay.
Something went wrong with my clickstream, I think. But I'm very glad it did. So it's called Leonardo Doai.
Okay.
What I really love about this tool is it gives you so much control. And that's always been one of the frustrations. I've used lots of these systems for generating images to go with social media posts. It's particularly handy for that because you can give it a bit of direction and get exactly what you want, which you can't always do with an image library. But with this one of the drawbacks I found is if you want to have a very similar image, you just can't do it. Each time you give it the same prompt, you get a very different outcome. Okay. With this, you can actually give it reference images. And the reference images can be anything. So actually what I was doing was giving it a prompt, generating a low res, look like it was hand drawn type image. And then I'd take that image and say, okay, could you turn this into a photo? So a friend of mine is currently writing a horror movie about Irish vampires. And he was asking me, as you do, how could we promote this? I'm like, well, you need some imagery. Well, how do I go about doing that? So he's great at writing, but forget the tech. So I said, well, have a look at this. And so we worked on it for a little bit. And so I gave it some prompts to give me an Irish vampire, quite a specific task we gave it. And it produced some standard kind of what you would expect to get from ChatGPT. It's just using the DALL-E type engines. But then you can take it up a notch and you can ask it for photorealistic stuff. And what we were doing is taking lower res kind of standard imagery, which didn't look very realistic, and asking it to make it photorealistic.
Yeah, the stuff you showed me was pretty amazing.
It's amazing.
It's kind of almost Midjourney level kind of stuff.
No, but it is using Midjourney. But what I love about it is it's got a whole layer of tools to control Midjourney.
I didn't understand that. Fine.
Yeah.
But you can use it for free.
Well, so you sign up for a free account, and I think they give you like 120 credits.
Right.
So it'll use more, but you get that daily, right? So it'll use more credits the more photorealistic you ask it to make, and the bigger the image. So play around with it, get lots of low resolution images, and then you can supply those to it as a reference point. And what I loved was I could ask it to take the same character and make her do different things.
Right.
Then there's a next layer on, which I got very excited about, where you can actually animate. That uses up a lot more credits.
Makes sense.
I was showing some of them to you, Louise. Louise, what did you think of it?
They're pretty impressive. Because normally you don't see that sort of content from tools that will just give you free credits daily.
No. I also think, the one thing about Midjourney is brilliant, but the interface puts people off because you have to go to Discord and you're talking to the Midjourney bot.
Yeah.
And you have to give it instructions. Those are commands to load. And obviously, if this is an interface, I'm sure Midjourney will do their own interface as well, but it makes sense.
It's like a Photoshop interface for it, but you just play around with the different models that it gives you access to, because it will generate using lots of different large language image creation tools. But I'm really blown away by it. It does open up all sorts of problems. For example, you could take something from an image library, like a low res with all watermarks, and you could supply that as a reference picture and come up with something actually even better than that. And it doesn't seem to have any issue with watermarks or anything like that. We've been playing around. It's quite, interesting.
So also the other problem with this is if you can upload someone's photo and do a variation of it and things like that as well.
So word of warning on this: when you're using the free account, anything you generate, it's not like protected.
Yeah.
But you certainly don't own the copyright, and it does get published. So actually, if you're not paying for it, anybody can use those images that you've generated. You've got no right to stop them.
Okay.
If you have a paid account, anything you create on it is kept within your account, which makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, just on that point then, a lot of organizations are currently creating AI policies. And my advice on this is go to the Chartered Institute of Marketing website. They have 4 principles for using AI. Take that, put it into a chat GPT or something similar and say, create me a policy using these principles. And that will give you a really good starting point to go through. It works really well. I've tried it out loads of times. It's brilliant. But bear in mind, in Europe, you've got the Europe AI Act that has just come out. And at the moment, it's fairly specific about fairly specific use case scenarios, like for scanning CVs and various other things. But that will develop over time. So my real thing here, and this is what when we went to the House of Commons and we were trying to brief all the cross-party kind of the MPs on this, was that you create a policy and then you iterate it. But as organisations, we would not be scared to experiment and try and then iterate these policies. But the key kind of things coming out about copyright, are we taking copyright stuff and manipulating it? There's privacy issues around it, but there's also what happens to stuff you put into it. Is that going into training data? You need to think about discrimination, various other things as well. And unintended consequences is the thing I'd think about. So there was a big thing recently, Google's image generation tool. They basically put some code into it to try and make it diverse, right? So I'm not going to get into the whole debate about it because it triggered loads of people to argue about it. But like you put King of England 1500 and it would have a black face or it would have an India face or whatever it might be. And people were outraged. But the reality was they were trying to do something good by saying create diverse faces. But there is this unintended consequence thing that happens. So you need a policy and you need to iterate it. And that's a good starting point. And then what that means is you're talking about it regularly so that as an organisation you're revisiting. And it's probably a policy you're going to need to update more than any other policy because it's going to change so quickly. But at least you're talking about this stuff.
I think the advice to big organisations was start building your compliance teams now. Which I think is probably not a bad shout.
Yeah, and I'd also say with this, it can feel really overwhelming. I mean, we've had people come on about podcasts and say, you're talking about AI an awful lot. And it's like, we kind of have to because it's here, right? And we have to deal with it. But what I would say is it feels really overwhelming that you've got to learn all this stuff. And I'd say you don't. All you've got to realise is that everyone else's skills are here. You've just got to be slightly better. And if you're slightly better, you'll have a competitive advantage. And I come back to that quote from Google where Google said, someone moaned that we're competing with AIs and actually said, no, you're not competing with AIs, you're competing with people that are using AIs. So just on that, we have built into our digital marketing skills benchmark, we haven't got a separate section for AI because we thought that's not the way to do it. It shouldn't be a separate thing. We've put all the questions within all the other sections in SEO, social media, content creation. So if you haven't benchmarked your skills or your team skills, get in and do that, and then you can go in and compare it to where the rest of your industry is, and it will give you a really good insight. Oh, we're doing okay. We don't need to worry. Or yeah, we've got some skills gaps here. So you go targetinternet.com/skills. You can benchmark yourself or your team for free. And the team benchmark now is there's an automated process. It will give you a link. You share it with your team. They can go. It takes them about 15, 20 minutes to do it. But I would say this is part of this culture of ongoing learning that we need to create, because if it's changing this quickly, unless we have that, we're constantly going to be on the back foot. Whereas if we're creating policies, experimenting, trying stuff out, iterating, then it can kind of be a bit fun and we can do it in that more of a sandboxed environment. It's a bit safer.
So for me, it's the photorealistic opportunities that are just incredible, really, really incredible. The only thing you need to watch out, it does have a habit of giving people extra legs or fingers.
Nice. I mean, if you look at the videos that Sora's making, so that's OpenAI's video platform, you watch them and they seem perfectly reasonable. And then you go, why has that cat got 3 legs on one side? And like that person, they're rolling around in their duvet and their shoulders just turn into part of the duvet. And like, your brain is quite taken aback by it. So yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to have for a while.
It fascinates me though that our brains do that when we dream.
Yeah, right.
And this is kind of like machines dreaming.
Well, it's
neural
network.
Up. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's interesting. Okay, so
a great example of regulations within AI and use cases for it is the Wonka event. because they used.
Tell us about.
Yeah, I wasn't really following this.
Tell us
I
about
did
the
see it, but
Wonka
I didn't
event.
follow it.
What
They were
was the Wonka
basically
event?
running a Willy Wonka themed event, and they'd used AI generated images, realistic images, to promote the event.
So it looked like it was going to be amazing.
And
Did it
I'll put some
misinterpret Willy
pictures and
Wonka?
stuff in the
No.
show notes.
Is it not?
But I mean, it was an absolute disaster, and everyone was asking for
Well, the
refunds,
guy-
but it went completely viral.
Yeah, so it went viral. There was really, really amazing images,
Yeah.
and it looked like it was going to be the most incredible event. And then you get there, there's some guy standing there in this suit that's like he's just
But
football.
the children were crying. And
Yeah.
I'll show you some pictures after.
Okay, right. Let's move on before Kira makes any more Willy Wonka jokes, and then realises he shouldn't have said it and moves on quietly.
It was funny.
Custom GPTs, right? If you haven't played around with this, ChatGPT, you can create custom GPTs, but we'll talk about it another time, maybe a little bit more. But the ability now to plug that into different things, because you can connect a custom GPT to an API. So what I would say is if you're looking for an AI tool to do something, go in and look, because there are thousands of custom GPTs and they're doing lots of different things. So for example, there's one that's connected to 200 million academic papers. So if you're trying to write something and you're like, I don't know where these references are, I don't trust it, use this GPT and it will tell you, here's all the information, but these are the references where it came from. If you want to go through and do a certain type of writing, it will help. So there's tons of them in there, and it's an absolute gold mine of really useful tools, but some are terrible, some are great. So again, it's a bit of an experimentation thing. Just to say as well, on ChatGPT, they have brought out the team account, and the team account for $25 per person per month will give you the ability to create a custom GPT, but then share it just with your team, not to make it public. So one of the things, and we've got an episode coming up on creating really good prompts, is you can train a custom GPT in your tone of voice and then share that with your team members. So everyone using it for writing will do it in the right tone of voice. So just a reminder on those things as well. And then another one we've mentioned before, but it's definitely worth coming back to, is the Keywords Everywhere. Keywords Everywhere is an SEO tool. I use it constantly. It's now doing a couple more things. You showed me this, I think, originally, with the prompts.
Prompt tool.
generator.
So it sort of takes ChatGPT and gives you just a lot.
Framework for doing different prompts.
Controls to control it. I think using that tool was such a good introduction to me on how to write effective prompts.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can see, you ask it to write in a certain way and you can see the actual prompt before you hit generate.
Mm.
And what I love is you can tweak the prompt as well to get a slightly different outcome.
One tip with it, it forever puts in the word witty for some reason. So it's you go an informative tone of voice, a straightforward language, and then it says write a witty, and oh no, don't tell an AI to be witty, because it does all sorts of really cheesy things.
It's worse than Kieran.
I was just going to. Do you know
You would
what?
love
I
it.
put it in my head
I
saying it was
knew where you
Kieran-esque,
were going
and
there.
then I didn't say it. I didn't say it though. I think thought crime now.
fine. Yeah.
Reading my mind. Right. Okay. So look at that. The other thing Descript does, off on a tangent, social media wise, if you've got Descript on and you go to social media, like the Instagram account, it will tell you average engagement rate, average number of
really
shares,
good, isn't it?
on that kind of thing. So it's got some social functionality. So it's clever, and it's still, I think, like, is it $12 for the year or something crazy like that? So it's still really cheap.
Descript.
Yeah, a little shout out for Descript, because we've been using it for ages. They are constantly innovating it. It's for editing videos and podcasts. It was the first one to do the AI voices thing as well. Still does a really good job of that. What we'll add on to the show notes, actually, is the pupil correction, the eye correction thing that it does, because I did a little demo in a training course the other day. So you're looking straight to camera, you're recording a video. I think I've mentioned this before, but you've got a script to read. So you're kind of looking off to the side and your eyes are darting. It looks awful on the recording. Whereas this, you hit one button. I couldn't believe how quick it was. It just makes you look forwards. So we'll share the example video of it correcting it. But it's a great example of an existing tool being improved by adding some AI functionality into it as well. So I think that's a really nice one. And then Zapier. Have you used Zapier before, Kieran?
On and off.
Right.
Yeah, I never have enough credits for what I want to do.
Right, okay.
I was too tight to actually pay for an account.
Right. So let's talk about what it does. It connects things to things. So you could go through and say, every time someone mentions us in Twitter, put it into our Slack channel or something like that. So you can connect different tools and trigger things.
I used to have a Zap that SMS'd me anytime you or Susanna sent me an email, which was super useful. Super useful.
Wow, so you're like, that's the opposite of that.
No,
That sounds awful.
No, it's just because I got fed up of like missing really important messages from you and wanted to be on it. So
I love the commitment. I'm really impressed, but I just think, like, my email being the bane of my life, then getting my emails to SMS me, I'd just
do
be
you
in
know
a
what?
whole cycle
Neither of you
hell.
emailed me that often, but it was very useful when you did.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. He's just demonstrated his commitment and loyalty. Very impressed. Well done. That was like a humble brag. That was impressive. Oh, did I mention that I used to do this? Anyway, so what they've created within Zapier is another bit of functionality, which is ChatGPT actions. So I said in custom GPTs, you can connect to an API. Well, you can now connect it to Zapier. Now that opens everything up, which means anything that Zapier can connect to, you can now trigger from a custom GPT. So it's allowing you to do what developers can do with custom GPTs or with ChatGPT more broadly, but using Zapier. So the example was you give access to your calendar, and then you could say to ChatGPT, when have I got a 2-hour gap in my calendar next week? And how many meetings have I got in the next month? And who have I met the most? And it will be able to do all that analysis stuff for your calendar. So those kind of things when you're trying to do something complex, or reality is now you could point a custom GPT at an article. It could write all your social media posts, but using Zapier, you can actually post it online. Don't do it, please. Just fills me with horror that people are going to be creating content with AIs and it happens already, but automatically posting that stuff without checking it. But it's a really interesting space. So if you look at Zapier ChatGPT actions, again, it will be in the show notes, targetinternet.com/podcast. That's quite fun as well. So there's our selection of the tools that we've been using lately.
I've got one more.
Brilliant, go for it.
Crisp.
What does that do?
KRISP. It's brilliant. So if you're on online calls, it removes all the background sounds, which is so useful. In a very busy office, sometimes you just don't want the background. And I know you can get noise cancelling headphones and stuff, but this uses... it's using AI, but it's just using a very clever system.
So it's interesting
for removing that, and it does result in what I think is crystal clear audio. Like I have a real problem working from home. Yeah. My dogs love them dearly, but they kick off about stupid things like there's a fat pigeon in the garden. They'll kick off about that. It's like, and you don't want that when you're on a really important call with a client, right? So this just.
I literally the other day, as the dog was going on and on and on.
Eddie the Beagle.
No, this was Walter the Beagle.
Walter the Beagle.
And I go out and he's standing, bold as brass, on the garden table, shouting at a crow. Yeah. And the crow's just looking at him going, "You're an idiot." Yeah. And this was during a really important call, so this would have been quite useful to know. So the thing is, I was going to say, Zoom has background noise cancellation into it anyway, to some extent. Yeah. And you think this is better, or this kind of...
Yeah, no, I mean, well surpasses that. And you can use it with... It's just anything. A bit of software that intercepts.
So it's like a camo camera kind of thing that overlays the feed.
It's free to try, so give it a go. But I was really impressed with it.
Awesome. All right. Well, there's our selection of tools at the moment. Don't forget, we've got that ChatGPT masterclass on the 1st of May. If you want to get loads more detail on this stuff, and as ever, thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.